The only problem that I can see if you take this decision is that the leader doesn't make it the priority. That's the only problem, because it's not a Me Too thing when you look at how much effort you have to put into it to get the results. So again, as you might have noticed in the book, I talk about you don't get to be world class at anything unless you make it your number one priority. It's not about anybody else, it's about you. If you have enough waste for 10 lifetimes, focus on eliminating your waste and watch what happens. And that's what I started to do.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Made to Grow podcast, brought to you by Flowlens, the simple, affordable MRP system. Over the coming 10 episodes, we've got a host of experienced manufacturers, industry thought leaders, and subject matter experts sharing their personal stories and professional insights to help you on your manufacturing success story. We'll be looking at the highs and lows of leadership, the nitty-gritty of digital transformation, operational excellence, and establishing what is the right mindset for manufacturing success. So, stay tuned and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts for a new episode every fortnight. I'm Rich Steele, and this week I'm joined by Tom Hughes, a highly experienced manufacturing leader, author, entrepreneur, and self-professed lean fanatic. Tom is a passionate advocate for lean manufacturing, and 2-second lean in particular, so I'm excited to share this conversation with you. We learn about Tom's own Lean Epiphany, the key to establishing a lean culture in your business, and some of the techniques he shares in his free book, Improvement Starts With I. Did you know around 98% of lean initiatives fail? So Tom's approach might just be the answer to ensure you are part of the 2%. So thanks for listening, and let's dive in. So welcome, Tom Hughes, to the Flowlens podcast. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
For our listeners' benefit, Tom has a wide and varied career. His youthful good looks and belie the amount of experience that you've had starting, in your early engineering career, working out internationally, and now successful author, speaker, coach, and owner of several businesses. So could you elaborate a wee bit more for our listeners as to your background and what brought us to today?
Yeah, well, I grew up outside Magherafelt in a farm in the middle of nowhere. Went to school here in Magherafelt. Couldn't wait to get out. That was about 35 years ago. I went to university in Birmingham, studied engineering, went straight into the automotive industry. I was very lucky to get a start in tier 1 automotive. So I had 10 years of that. I was mostly in quality, purchasing, supplier development functions, but always working with companies that were tier 1 to the Japanese companies, especially the Toyotas, the Nissans, and the Hondas. Came out of automotive. I should say, spent a bit of time in Germany in automotive as well, speak German pretty well. Coincidentally, we're taking our whole team to Germany this week to visit E02, another amazing lean company, but I digress. I hardly touch the stuff these days. But so then we can say I came back to Ireland, did an MBA at Trinity College, went into private equity. I was in a private equity backed company as a supply chain director. We did a management buyout on that company, and we did a great job. We grew it to $200 million and made our private equity people a lot of money and ourselves a bit. When we sold that, it was about 10 years ago. And during that whole time, the 10 years in automotive would have been all very hands-on, quality, TQM. It wasn't even called lean in the early days of that. Would have been practicing lean. As a senior leader, senior manager, we were just practicing the lean cultural aspects. We'll come on to that in a bit. After that, took a bit of time off, then went into software development, founded a company in India for software development, and went back into industry about 4 years ago. And that's when things start to get interesting. You were waiting, weren't you, audience? So I was doing a company transformation, we'll say, in Northern Ireland. And I thought I was going in to strategically reposition the company, find them new markets for the technology that they had because their home markets were getting really decimated. So day one, I turn up at that company and they confronted me with the now infamous question of, we want you to implement Lean. And I was just horrified. I was thinking like it had been 10 odd years since I'd held an operational factory position. And I just thought, that's below me. I don't do that. So do you want to hear about my Lean Epiphany then? Because thank the above.
Yeah. Let's hear about your Lean Epiphany, Tom.
Yeah, so we wanted to implement Lean, and I nearly turned heel and walked on. But like a good soldier, I soldiered on and was running 5S workshops for those that may not have heard of Lean. Actually, let's take a step back. Some of your listeners might not even know what Lean is. So we'll go with that first.
So there's a traditional definition of Lean, and then there's 2-second Lean. So
yeah, we'll start with the traditional one. The traditional one would be Lean is the elimination of waste by continuous improvement. And that's the one that doesn't particularly excite me, but that's the one that I was working with up until this point in our story. So from here, I did a few weeks of doing workshops with the people on the shop floor of this factory, teaching them some of the basic, I should say, to teach them some of the Lean fundamentals. And I got InvestNI in.
InvestNI is a sort of local enterprise and development agency in Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the people that they can be very helpful. They've been very helpful in my existing business. But at that time, I just wanted money. I wanted money for either a full-time head to do Lean, or a consultant to come in and do Lean for me. So unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, they didn't have any money. So that was a letdown. And I was getting really turned off in this meeting, because I was thinking, I don't see any solution for me here, until they came out with what is now the immortal line of, there's this company in Limavady. Right? So, Rich, you maybe want to tell your listeners what people may or may not commonly hold about Limavady here in Northern Ireland.
It's a beautiful place near the north coast, and it is close to a nice country park. That's what I would know it for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a lovely place, but in terms of the business world, it wouldn't really be one of those, it's not Silicon Valley. At least put it like that. It's not one of our more exciting locations where things are usually happening. So where we come from, we'd say it's like the back side of nowhere. So that's where I grew up, by the way, the backside of nowhere. But anyway, there's this company in Limavady. They're a bit like a cult, but they're world-class at Lean. They're doing stretches every morning, and it's really weird. And they showed me this video, and that was the first time I encountered 2-second Lean, and it was a guy called Paul Akers doing a Lean tour, a factory tour of this facility. The company's called Seating Matters. And I was blown away from the very first second of the video. The energy really got me. Physically, the place looked unbelievable. And everybody who was on camera was just like so enthusiastic. And I was like, wow, this is something I could really relate to and get excited about. So I asked the guys from InvestNI, like, who are these people? They gave me the mobile number of the guy in the video from Seating Matters, a guy called Ryan Tierney. I reached out to him, sent him a WhatsApp message. He was back and forward by voice. Lean people don't really use text on WhatsApp. We voice memo. And this is the way we do things now. And he told me I should reach out to the author of the book, who was also in the video, this Paul Akers guy. And I needed to read this book called 2-second Lean. So I digested 2-second Lean on Audible within 48 hours. And I reached out to Paul Akers on WhatsApp. So this book, apparently it sold like 500,000 copies. And you can just WhatsApp the author. not through his secretary or anything, and he's going to get back to you. I was a bit like incredulous of this. I hadn't been sold that yet. But I write Paul this big wall of text about, I'm convinced about how do I persuade the rest of the ownership team to do this. Because at that time, my impression was half an hour in a morning meeting every day where you're training your people, learning, teaching them to see waste, building your culture. Then you have half an hour improvement time to basically make improvements to how you do things every day. 1 hour a day, not banging widgets.
Yeah, it's a big thing to sell to people who are used to it.
It's a big ask. So I wrote Paul this big WhatsApp message asking for his advice. And the message I got back, I have it in the book that I've now written. It's been released about a year. Improvement Starts With I. There it is. At improvementstartswithI.com. The actual voicemail message is in the book on a QR code video. And it's like, right, first of all, great message, but who are you? I don't know your name. So I'd written him, told him my life story, but I hadn't told him what my name was. And in the same message, he says, forget about everybody else. And this is the bit to listen. If you're going to listen to anything in this podcast, this is the bit you want to listen to. It's not about anybody else. It's about you. If you have enough waste for 10 lifetimes, focus on eliminating your waste and watch what happens. And that's what I started to do. But I didn't realize it till after I'd written my own 55,000 word book, and I was looking for a title, and I came up with the title Improvement Starts With I. It's on my t-shirt here. Thought that sounds good. It resonated. But honestly, that was the main reason. Oh, I like that. That's catchy. But the seed of my book came from that very first voice memo from Paul Akers. So don't worry about anybody else. Just worry about yourself. Focus on yourself.
And when you fed that back to the management team that wanted you to do Lean at that company, was that a bit of a shock for them that they were going to have to step up to the plate themselves?
Well, here's the thing. When you really take that advice to heart, it's not about them. It's about you. So what I did was, this is all covered in the book. So I became an overnight Lean Maniac myself. So I started to make these improvements in everything I was doing. I was bringing them into my stand-up meetings. I was bringing in lean language like opportunities for improvement and waste. And I was making these little videos, little improvement videos, straight off the bat. And I got other people that were interested into a WhatsApp group. And we just started to use that language. And I was encouraging. I would not say push. We have an expression in Lean, it's pull, not push. It's a pull system, like Kanban, if you're familiar with that. And yeah, so you're not about pushing it on to anyone else. So encourage them to read the book. Get the language going, start making small improvements in your own environment, your own span of control, and then just pulling people with you. And that's what you do. So it wasn't, even after that piece of advice, it's not about anybody else. I was telling them all about Lean, telling them all about 2-second Lean, letting my own enthusiasm do the work, but I wasn't forcing anybody or pushing anybody to do anything.
Lead and they will follow, basically.
Lead and they will follow. And apart from that, we have some lean companies here in Northern Ireland. We have a lot more now than there was back in those days. That's about 4 years ago. And I was taking the management team on tours to those companies. So at that time, we had Plastics Promotions, big shout out. You were the first 2-second lean company in Northern Ireland, as far as I'm aware. Small company, taking them to see them. And then the reaction was, well, they're a small company. They're not us. We're 60 people. They're like 4 or 5. That's not going to work for us. Then you go, and that's what people do. It's not a criticism of those individuals. That's just actually normal. Next thing was Cocoon Rugs in Uri. Amazing lean company, phenomenally successful. Some of your listeners might be familiar. They're like Amazon for rugs for the UK. Amazing lean culture. Take them there. But they don't make anything. They're just a distributor. Then we go to Seating Matters. which is the company from the original video, will take them to Seating Matters. There's no more excuses because Seating Matters do everything. They do laser cutting, they do woodwork, they do painting, they do upholstery, they do like so much stuff happening under that roof that it's just, well, there's no more excuses now. If they can do it, well, we can do it. And we built up that consensus over, I would say, 3 months in the management team that this was going to be the right thing for us. And that was really valuable, that we didn't just leap into the 2-second lean system without building the ground. Preparing the ground first was very important.
I was curious because whenever your sort of day one experience was the management team telling you that they wanted to do lean, it sounded like they didn't necessarily know what it was, but you took them on that journey, and they had an epiphany in Seating Matters, and they could see themselves in that.
But yeah, it's a great input, Richard, because here's the normal thing. I encounter this almost every day because I coach people. It's not the main thing that I do. I never want it to be the main thing I do. We have our own business. I'm sitting in it. In terms of, I have the storeroom for your audience's benefit because we've got stuff happening out there that would interfere. Normally we'd do this type of podcast from when I'm working from home, but that didn't work out. Anyway, yeah, so coaching's not what I do, but I haven't encountered anybody different yet, unfortunately. People have this, I want lean. Who doesn't want lean? If you're a business owner, you want to have all the smooth processes, the easy life, the efficiencies, the customer service, the quality, the cost, everything. Who doesn't want those things? But everybody wants to buy it. That's the problem. So we want lean. So the typical thought process was like me back at the beginning of my Lean Epiphany. How can I get some money to buy lean? Because that's what I thought it was. If you remember what I said, I want to get enough money to get a full-time person that can take lean away from me and take care of this lean ugly baby. Or I can get a consultant in who's going to do lean for me. And then he's going to take that ugly baby away from me. But that's the problem. Too many of us see that's what lean is and that's how lean is done. But the good news and the bad news is, the good news is it's best done by yourself. So you can't buy it. I write about this in the book. I actually would argue strongly that nothing worthwhile in life can be bought. You can't buy your company culture, which is what lean is. You can't buy your physical fitness. Unfortunately, the best personal trainer in the world, if you eat the crap and you don't do the exercise, you're not going to work out for you. You can't buy a good relationship. You have to do the work. That's the unfortunate truth. So whether that's the bad news, I think that's actually more bad news than good news. You can't buy it. You have to do it yourself. The good news is when you do it yourself, you get real lean. So you as a leader, you have to do it. Yeah. You can't buy it.
I think I've come across in our world leaders who have too much on their plate, and they think they can see a silver bullet, or they can see the promised land of better processes and reducing waste or eliminating waste, and they think, well, if I just buy that, then that'll get me through all of this pain that I'm in. And it's never the case. They're going to have to own the pain, get through it.
Well, the thing is, genuinely, I can say this, like from that experience and everyone since, because now I've got a signal group with 70 odd individuals, 30 odd countries represented, of people that are doing it in the way from my book. Improvement Starts With I, free, improvementstartswithI.com again. But when you've took the ownership and you've decided improvement does start with I, genuinely, it's not painful. There are hard parts, but when you take that decision, I liken it to a karmic realization. So we've had different cultures. If you're an Eastern culture and you believe in karma, there's nobody to blame but yourself for the situation that you're in. So whenever you're able to take that attitude about your business, so And again, I write about this in the book. If you're the owner or the leader, you did it. So, but the great news is you can do more with it. You can decide to change it as well. So as soon as you take that decision that it's about you, I'm going to be the extraordinary example of lean. I'm going to pull the rest of the organization with me. Life gets easier straight away.
Absolutely.
Genuinely,
you
it
refer
does.
in the book to the word priority and priorities. If such a thing as possible to have a one-word oxymoron, there are no such thing as priorities. And I think
that's right.
when leaders decide that there's only one thing, that pain goes away because they start to have a priority, solve that, move on to the next thing, and that creates a lot of clarity where maybe people are overwhelmed. So that
I definitely have been part of quite a few lean transformations now. I think when the only problem that I can see if you take this decision is that the leader doesn't make it the priority. That's the only problem, because it's not a Me Too thing. When you look at how much effort you have to put into it to get the results. So again, as you might have noticed in the book, I talk about you don't get to be world class at anything unless you make it your number one priority. So you can't be like, I'm going to be an Olympic swimmer, and I'm going to, be a great carpenter, whatever it is. I'm going to be the world's best welder and the world's best swimmer. That never happens. You have to decide, right, that is my priority. I realize what the goal is. It fits with me as an individual, and it's what I want for the company. Once you're that single-minded about it, you can drape all the other stuff that your business needs around it. So I use the term in the book that lean isn't the objective. And I really, really mean it. Lean is the vehicle to take you where you want to go. So if you want to be the best small metal plater in the UK, for example, or whatever your strategic objective is, you can use lean to take you there. So, you can always make those problems that you're day-to-day firefighting with today without any real structure and process around them. So you can go, all right, you've got a lot of delivery issues, you've got a lot of quality issues. You bring them all into your lean process and they become lean.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm getting at. They're not a frivolous thing at the side of lean. Lean, to be relevant for your business, has to be dealing with the important stuff in your business. So I come up with an equation to help people understand this if you want to hear it.
Go for it. The Made to Grow podcast is brought to you by Flowlens, the simple, affordable MRP system specifically designed for SME device, equipment and machinery manufacturers. Our top-rated cloud-based software can help you cut down on wasted materials, time and money, and eliminate the chaos of running your manufacturing with spreadsheets and hope. Our customers have reported savings of over a day per week per person in their business by cutting out needless admin, duplication of work and countless mistakes. Plus, lead times are shortened by up to 75%. And after hundreds of successful implementations, we've got the blueprint for manufacturing success nailed down. Head over to flowlens.com for a quick video tour of the software and to hear from more manufacturers like you who have transformed their businesses with Flowlens. Now, back to the interview.
Well, because what normally happens, another reason why lean fails, apparently in the US, 98% of lean initiatives fail, by the way. I think that's important. That's why I wrote my book, was to try to lift that a good few percentage points, at least for 2-second lean. So one of the problems, so you decide that the system is the morning meeting and the improvement time, as I mentioned. So you decide as an organization, right, we're going to do that. And 2 weeks in, somebody's saying, where's the improvements? Where's our results? Where are the results now? We've been doing this lean thing for 2 weeks. And the way I describe it in the equation is that's the wrong focus. You have three things that you need to focus on in order to drive the improvements and the results. The first one is engagement. So you have to have your people engaged in the lean process. We'll call that interested and relevant if you want to know more about what engaged is. Because if they're not interested and it's not relevant to them, the next two steps can't happen. The next is education. So you need to teach people to see waste. You need to educate people about what your values and your culture is in order for the improvements to happen. If they can't see waste, they can't make improvements. Then finally, you need to recognize the 95% of good, what's happening. And I talk about 5% Genghis Khan where it's not. This is about recognizing and reinforcing the behavior that you want to see. So engagement, education, recognition, their multiplication, if you guys are familiar with maths, if any of them is a zero sum, nothing happens. And the other side of the equation is the equals improvements plus results. And when we have the focus on the engagement, education, recognition, it's only a question of time when the improvements and the results come. So that's to help people understand that, because focus on the engagement, things will, that's step one, things will work.
See, for leaders, they've embraced this, they've started to be the change they seek, but they see themselves not as a great coach, or they're afraid to coach or deliver feedback or criticism. And I know that it's I think one of the rules is you obviously solve your own problems before you criticize others. But once you start to distribute that, what advice would you give for people who have that sort of anxiety over taking the step into coaching other people and getting this change happening?
Well, I think one of them, it comes back to the t-shirt again. Improvement starts with I. You can't be blind and lead the blind. So back to, you need to be a lean maniac. You need to yourself take on a nerd status of, I'm going to read all the lean books, follow all the lean videos, follow all the lean influencers. I'm going to get really knowledgeable about this. Because if you don't, how can you coach anybody? So that's be the first thing I would say to people. And again, it's a huge weakness that I see in failed companies, that the leader decides to try to delegate that to the operations manager or somebody else. And it just won't work. Like, it just won't. I haven't seen it work yet, where that actually manages to follow.
There's parallels with what we do with companies in terms of their digital transformation, where we always seek the leader to be bought in and find a use case for the system, even if they're not using it from an operational standpoint as much as someone else. Because if they're not using it, they're not being seen to use it and understand why people are why the company is doing the change, then anyone else that they appoint to champion it, never mind use it, is going to kind of just not take it seriously. And those are that's how we qualify 100%. Out almost from certain scenarios where we can see the buy-in isn't there, the belief isn't there. They just, again, what I said earlier, sort of silver bullet type approach.
Yeah. No, I very much, I've been through a few ERP implementations myself, and that's why they fail. And the functional managers don't buy into them because the leader didn't buy into it. You only get one or two functions that really go for it, and then it ends up being
exactly. It's a lame dog.
So like for this approach, the leader needs to be bought in. Like, and back in your ERP situation, the guy may not have to be using the ERP system 3 hours a day, but he has to be chairing the implementation meetings and driving the activity and making it the priority. Because at that stage in an organization's evolution, if you're going to change your ERP system, it has to be the priority, not a priority, the priority. Because if you don't, it's going to cause you more problems further down the line. So it's very, very similar. But to take it back to your question, they need to decide to become coach level in terms of their own knowledge. So, we're always doing things. Wits not wallet is one of our expressions in 2 Second Lean world. So we wouldn't be going on the 10 grand course early on. We'd be reading all the books. We'd be reading 2 Second Lean. We'd be reading my book. We'd be reading the traditional Toyota Lean books. We'd be reading the technical end of Lean and getting up to speed. Then you're starting to place yourself in a position where you can coach somebody. So, and again, the approach I advocate in the book is that we build not just the leader as the coach, that we build a core group of advocates to carry Lean and the culture as we go forward. So you're looking at, like, in a, let's say, anything under 100 people company, you're looking at up to a dozen people that form a learning club to learn and practice Lean together before you start to switch on this system.
That was going to be my next question, or to come on to the learning club concept as a way to build the platform and then start distributing it and being more visible across the team.
Build pull, build curiosity. That's another function of the learning club. I want to be on that learning club. What are you doing? That's, you're getting it right when that's happening. All the learning club materials in the book, I've done the learning club as a coach consultant for a few different companies. And I thought hard about, shall I put that in the book, or shall I, try to get some coaching consultancy out of it? No, I put it in the book. So if you go to improvementstartswithI.com, and you can download it on an app called the Lean Play app, which anybody who's remotely interested in Lean, download the Lean Play app. Paul Akers' 2 Second Lean is on it. My book's on it. Some of the traditional Taiichi Ohno from Toyota Production System is on there. A bunch of great Lean books, all for free. It's an Audible clone. Download that, and you can access Improvement Starts With I from there.
Happy days. Just wanted to come on to teaching people to see waste. How did you, was that something you needed to teach once people saw this Lean Maniac on his pursuit for zero waste, or was there actual coaching involved in that?
100%. And you're coaching every day. This is the difference between the traditional approach of Lean and what we're doing. You're traditionally doing Kaizen events or consultancy-driven workshops in your traditional implementation of Lean. So it's very stop-start. It's very hard to sustain. This form of Lean, you're teaching and training every single day. So with this, we have a traditional set of 8 wastes defined by Taiichi Ohno. You can call him the godfather of Lean. And we have that we, especially for a physical and especially for a manufacturing environment, those 8 wastes are very appropriate even now. So we'll stick with them, because we did an AME, Association of Manufacturing Excellence, Lean tour from Lumen Electronics, where I'm sitting right now, around your waste might not always be Taiichi Ohno's. Third millennium companies have different wastes than 1950s Toyota. So I'll just throw that in there for completeness. But we'll come back to just strictly the 8 wastes. So what we would do there, I spent a lot of time preparing the training material on a daily basis for our 60 people in that first company. Without exaggerating, 2 or 3 hours a day, I was doing that. And I would take the formal definitions, like we'll pick one, easy one, defects. That's one of the traditional 8 wastes. So what is a defect? We'd be asking, again, we'd be doing that in the morning meeting. What's the defect? People come up with, what is quality, would be another question I'd ask. I was one of the youngest members of the Institute of Quality Assurance back in the day, so I love quality stuff. So even a simple question, what's quality, gets everybody thinking, what's quality? It's, Ferrari's quality, a Rolls Royce is quality. Well, what about a Toyota? Is it Toyota quality? You get into, what is the definition? Is it for? Then you work out your definition for your company. What is quality? What does that mean here? What is a defect here? It's something that doesn't conform to standards. Stay with me. So then you get, well, what is our standard? What is it? What's good? What is his good? The same as my good? Do we have a standard that's real that we can all know and work towards? And that is how you learn together as an organization. If you understand that simple example, compare to a consultant coming in and telling you what's quality in your place. Now we're going to work out what that means in our organization together. So our definition is conformance to standard. Then we need to have standards. Your first exercise is developing standards for your product or your service and so on. And then you start to go, well, you can bring your defects into the morning meeting, examples. Oh, we had this yesterday. All right, let's discuss that. And we get to problem solve in the meeting. Do you see where that all goes? So that's how you teach people to see waste. You're not abstract. It's not somebody else's waste you're talking about. It's all your company's waste. So that's what builds engagement. Remember that word I mentioned earlier? It's engaging when it's relevant. That's the best form of engagement. People play all kinds of funny games of throwing balls around a room and playing games, trying to get people interested. I'm not a real fan of that. Engagement's when you're seriously relevant to helping people have a better work life and eliminating the struggle from their work, which we didn't touch on early enough. We need to come to that, Rich, and probably near the end of the interview.
Let's come to that next.
The three things that need to happen for Lean to happen. Let's talk about that now, if you don't mind. Shall we do that? So for Lean to work, first thing, most important thing, the individual has to win. There has to be something in it for the individual. So easy way to say it is we want to eliminate struggle from the work and mean it. So we don't want hard work. We just want value to flow. So that's what's in it for this guy. And if the organization becomes more successful, perhaps we can pay better in the future as we become more productive. But the first thing isn't that. The first thing is, right, we're going to have an easier work life, less stress, less firefighting, value's going to flow better. Next person has to win is the business. We're treating people like adults. You know, we do want a world-class lean culture where everybody's tapping their steering wheel coming to work. That's important, and we'll have a better business when we get there. But we're obviously after some results. So we want better quality, better service, better customer experience, more growth, better margins, lower costs, etc. Third stakeholder that needs to win is the customer. So we need to be customer-centric. So we're going to let him win in terms of everything I just mentioned for the business. Better quality, better service, better cost, better customer experience. Everybody's winning. But the first one that needs to win is the individual. And we have to focus on getting them in for the other two to win.
I know it's, what's in it for me. Again, there's similarities with what we do because we see the waste and the laborious nature of manual processes that people are doing, whether they know better or not, or maybe it's probably more frustrating when they do know that solutions are out there. But making them see, well, I'm going to save 2 hours a day, or I'm not going to have to duplicate that, or in fact, that thing I've been doing for the last 10 years was utterly pointless and nobody used the data I was collecting. Those are things that transform people's day. And as you say, they're drumming the steering wheel on the way in.
Well, like for your kind of product, like we have this conversation, I would say in the lean groups I'm in, particularly the improvement starts with iSignal group, a good third of the chat is around IT related lean. So we have a few. Double data entry is one of the wastes that we've defined there. So if you've got more than a single source of truth and everybody's looking at it in different ways, spreadsheets as a workaround is another obvious form of waste. Why am I having to export that data out of a system, manipulate it and put it in another one? Like the obvious waste. Then we have another expression that's come up recently in that group, single minute exchange of information. So in traditional lean, we have single minute exchange of dies, means you flexibly ship from one product to another on a particular machine. But this idea of information needing to move rapidly and flow in the same way as we want physical material to flow. Like your kind of system can really be valuable at making that happen, and how it talks to other systems, etc., and not have all these clunky spreadsheets. And it's really exciting.
Well, it's sort of ideally where they come together, because technology is sort of intrinsic to every process these days, whether it's an admin process, the way we would think about it, in sort of orders and stock and that kind of thing, versus what's happening on the floor and tangible activity. So the more technology evolves, the more that'll be the case, up to a point where it makes sense, mind you. So you can have too much technology, sometimes gets in the way as well. This is sometimes hard to explain.
It can be a comfort blanket at times, and not a good one. Like I have a personal, I don't like to use the word hatred, but it's not far off. I have a personal hatred of KPIs and dashboards, overused, because what I think happens is that when people are running the business by the numbers or a graph, we have a saying again in Lean: the further away from the Gemba the decisions are made, the worse the decisions will be. So you look at a particular piece of data that's miles away from where the action is. That's the Gemba, the workplace. And people are making all kinds of poor decisions because they don't have a full picture.
I thought it was interesting. You quote Brian Tierney. You said you were looking for the dashboards, I think, in your tour, and he was just like, "Well, you don't need them, because if people are happy in their work and they're improving as we go along, the business is going to do just fine, and customers too."
They focus on growing and developing the people first, and the results follow. And that was a penny drop moment for me, because that's the truth. Most of us have been doing business looking in the rear view mirror and not out the front window.
Tom, I think we could probably talk all afternoon about this, but that probably leaves us on quite a salient point, because I asked my guests just to leave listeners with the one thing that they can take away from this this conversation. So could you sort of summarize your thoughts on that?
I do think that it's all in the improvement starts with I attitude. I think as a manager or as a leader, when you start to understand that, then everything changes. Because no matter what the problem is, especially if it's your organization, and you start to look at it through that lens. So how did I contribute? Like, so back to a quality problem, for example. Instead of pointing the finger, it's like, well, how did that happen? And as the leader of this, was there a standard in place? Was it clear that that's good, bad, and different? Did they have the systems and the tools and the processes and the correct environment for that success to flourish, if I can put it like that? And when you start to have that mindset, and things just get better. It can be difficult to accept, to take it to heart. Like I did that. That was me. Actually, it was me. That's the hard part for a lot of people. It's very ego reducing, because you have to start admitting your vulnerabilities and where you maybe haven't been, up to your best. But whenever that happens, that's when things get good.
Great.
So, read the book. You get more an essence for that. I'll do a shameless plug before I go as well.
Do people get your WhatsApp number as well?
So, all my contact details are on improvementstartswithI.com, including my phone number, email address, everything. I'm very open with that stuff. I answer queries pretty much every day from somebody somewhere who's read a book and decided they want to talk to me. All of that I do free of charge, no problem at all. I love doing it. The shameless plug bit comes in. We developed a piece of software in our lean journey called GembaDocs, and it's for documenting processes, SOPs. It's a brilliant piece of software, and it's very low cost for what it does. And if anyone feels like putting some systems and processes into their business and they want a good tool to document it, there's nothing better than GembaDocs, and I can say that hand on heart. So that's at GembaDocs.com, or just download the app, free 30-day trial of the app on your app store, Apple or Android. Just look for GembaDocs, and it's great. Again, reach out if you want any help or support.
Tom, I really appreciate all you've shared today, and thank you. Your passion, maybe is mania the right word in lean terms? Lean.
Yeah, I'm happy. Mania is fine.
It's great. So hopefully it inspires some of our listeners, and thank you again.
You're very welcome, Richard. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers. I think you'll agree, Tom talks the talk and walks the walk when it comes to the reality of establishing a lean culture in your business. This isn't something you can buy in, and as with most things, the best way to establish lasting change is to lead from the front. Don't forget, you can listen to Tom's books and a host of other resources by downloading the free Lean Play app. Next time, we look at financing your growth plans. I'll be joined by Graham Niven from Tandem Financial Services. Graham specialises in obtaining debt and equity financing for manufacturers. We discuss the key factors in deciding which is best for your business and how to save time by creating a fundable business plan. Knowing your numbers is essential, but there's more to the process, and this episode will reveal all. Don't forget to hit subscribe to get notifications as soon as our next episode goes live, and please follow us on social media at Flowlens for more. Till next time, thanks for listening.